Hi, listener. This is Sven, just doing a cold open before the cold open. I had this recorded what seems like months ago, but it was a considerable amount of time. And partially because I didn't know how to deal with some of the subject matter that was in here. And I'm just going to take this opportunity right now to call myself out, and as a white cis hetero male, that I am a recipient of privilege. I do get the opportunity to bury my head, and for some people that is not an option. And I guess I just hope that maybe we can take the opportunity to reflect upon our own privilege and the way that we receive privilege and how it benefits us. It's very important that we think about how we're benefited by privilege. I benefit from privilege, and in some ways it makes it so that I can never resonate or understand exactly the extent that my own privilege grants me. And I hope that, after your own soul searching, that maybe you reflect upon the privilege that you receive. And I'm trying to speak from the heart, and I also made sure that I didn't edit myself in the way that I respond or ask questions, because you know what? I stumble. I trip up. I worry about saying the wrong things. And I think that it's important that at the very least, we're conscious of how we benefit from privilege. Here is my interview with Melvin Knight.
Like before this, I was in Meadowbrook Park just walking around, just looking at trees and like looking at animals as they pass by and looking at the sky and just existing. I think I like that the most. It's simple, because I think the most complex beauty is in the simplest things, because they exist and they're true and they remain true.
Welcome to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Welcome to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. Here with me today is Melvin Knight, and we're going to be listening to the song Promised Land off the album Shades of Us. You may know Melvin Knight from Church Booty, which is now called Fay Ray. You may know him from the Blackbird House Band, backup for Fiona Kimble. And when he's playing as a full set, it's Melvin Knight and the Amber Sky. Melvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So I guess without further ado, we'll just listen to the song Promised Land off the album Shades of Us.
Samila ilemvo kadi zola iso. Tell your Negro, look away. Don't look Master in his face. Love is Jesus, pray for grace. You'll find freedom in your chains. Tell these black boys, stop resisting. Respect my flag, I'm insisting. Should my disposition strike your nerve, raise your pistol, protect and serve. Oh, come on now, take my hand. Let's all go to the promised land. There's hope for Utopia, the land of the free in spite of slave. Utopia, there's peace in the promised land. Come on now, take my hand. Let's all go to the promised land.
Balula mesomaku Samila ilembo Kadi zola iso Zola iso
Tell your woman to know her place. Keep my kitchen with style and grace. Don't you dare resist me, let me have my way. You'll find freedom in your pain. Listen, brother, please understand. You must hide your feelings if you can. They will chase you across the land. Should they see you kiss that man? Oh, come on now, take my hand. Let's all go to the promised land. There's hope for Utopia, the land of the free in spite of slave. Utopia, there's peace in the promised land. Come on now, take my hand. Let's all go to the promised land. In a land where peace is more than a myth of the afterlife, where there's equal share of opportunity for people black and white, where people all show love for each other and have respect for life, where we build up our community so the future turns out bright. In a world where compassion knows no bounds by land or sea, where we work to bridge our differences, whatever they may be, where we break the bonds that bind our minds so our spirits may be free, with the peace of mind that dollar signs don't affirm humanity. You know the land is free. There's peace in the promised land. The land is wide. There's peace in the promised land. The promised land is for every woman. The promised land is for every child. And brother, please don't ignore my pain. Break the shackles, release your chains. Peace in the promised land. Blood in the streets and fire in the sky. There's peace in the promised land. But if we break free, then we'll never say die.
Love that's equal for all people, deeper than the sea. Hope can heal all weary hearts. Save a place for me. Love that's equal for all people, deeper than the sea. Hope can heal all weary hearts. Save a place for me.
Well, that's a great song. I get a lot of really amazing imagery, and I don't really, to be honest, I don't really know where to start with this, because sometimes let's see. Would you like to tell me a little bit about how that song came about? And
Yeah, sure. So I wrote it back when I was in my senior year of music school for my senior recital, which is like your last showcase where you prove to your teachers and the public that you actually learned something in 4 years of music school, or everybody comes and regrets spending their money and time on you. And I had originally slotted some other Stevie Wonder song to fill the slot, and I'd halfway gotten around arranging it and didn't really have it ready. And basically a week before my recital, I was at my friend's recital, and we were celebrating at Blackbird, a local bar in Urbana, and that was the night of the election.
Oh.
And
oh my gosh, how old? Oh, I guess you.
how old was I? When
yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah.
I think I was 22, maybe 23.
Oh, okay. So not. Yeah, I guess. The words. Your words are so powerful that, and the music behind it is so informed and so just amazing that I wouldn't have expected this. I mean, I have seen Church Booty, so I knew that the musicality of everybody was just so amazing, but I for some reason, just your music makes me feel that you're older, that you're more. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I would have expected from somebody who has been doing this for ever.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just it just amazes me. Well, also I admire people with tons and tons of talent. So,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But honestly, the thing was, it came at a profound moment for me, because that night, watching the election, watching what was going on and what America embraced, it was like a huge growing up moment, but all at once, where you see the world for what it is. Like, the thin veneer of civility is totally cast aside, and you see the Wild West that it really is,
Right.
And so that election night was just a rush of emotion. It was just, you were confused by what this man had openly embraced, and seeing the other Americans embrace, you're like, oh, so you must feel this way too. And you start to wonder, for not only for myself as a black man, but my other friends as minorities who are from out of the country, immigrants, my acquaintances and friends in my life who were women, people who had all basically openly been disavowed, I felt, by this allegiance and this decision that America had made. And it just led deeper and deeper. It's hard to explain, but over the course of those few days, I started to look even closer into the things that I had believed, what I had thought America stood for, what I thought my community stood for, what I thought my family had stood for, my extended family. And I found lie after lie after lie, or half-truth and hypocrisy. And when you dig down to the core of the truth of the issues there are these long-lasting issues that have never really been resolved over time, regardless of leader, regardless of era, And so I wanted to write something that, instead of, I wanted to confront the ugliness. I wanted to stand right in front of it in some way and say, this is here, and then speak hopefully to what I hope could exist in the future. And that's not to say like that I'm an optimist that we're headed that way now, but just to show, hey, this is where we are really, and then like, this is what we should all hope to see, on one other end of the spectrum.
And in some ways I'm having a problem with it, and not because I don't believe your words, and I wholeheartedly agree with your words, but I also know that this is a call to action for me as well. I as a white person, I know that that in some ways the not only was there a veil lifted of people that you didn't really think, it's like they somehow, because of our new president, they felt all of a sudden they had permission to behave in a certain way, or you finally hear what they've felt all along. And it made me even more aware of my own privilege and things that I had taken for granted. And in some ways, when I was reading and listening to these words, I knew that, I've only been doing this show for like 3 months. And so I knew that there was a lot of processing and a lot of, for putting words out there that I don't know why I'm confused about it in some ways too, because it's not, in some ways it's not fair for me to be confused about it. It should be very clear for me what my beliefs and behaviors should be. And not that those weren't there. It's just that I became aware of, as I said, that privilege that it, I don't know how to express it in a way that
it's okay. I was letting you get out, because honestly, the thing I feel is it's okay to be confused. It's okay to not always understand how you approach, confronting privilege, confronting your disposition, how you feel about these very real things. To me, the biggest thing as a community, as a country, we have to do is continue to confront those feelings, to have those questions, to acknowledge that they exist. For too long, when we had the illusion of everything being right with the world, because I want to be absolutely clear, while I absolutely disavow Trump and his administration, I think the real truth of what it did is it's kind of just revealed how ludicrous so much of, the status quo was. Right. Really, he takes off all of the pretends of, nice guy politics, and then takes all the, the bureaucracy and the nice way we've dressed up, barbarianism, and strips that off and shows it at its just what it is. Yeah. And that's been our history. So I feel like, to me, I'm not asking, for me personally, I'm not looking at people to be perfect out of the gate or to even agree with everything. But if as long as we are confronting and honest with ourselves and questioning ourselves constantly, that to me, I think, is already a better world, because I'd say at least a quarter of the BS that goes down wouldn't go down because people stop and think, now, wait a minute now, let me look at myself objectively, not giving myself the benefit of the doubt all the time. Is this necessarily what I should be doing in relation to how it affects the people around me? And I think you live like that, this world, you can add a lot of miles to it. We can go a lot.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed in the lyrics that you sent me, I had a question about the words that you sing before the first two verses. Mm-hmm. Is there a meaning behind that?
You mean the Congolese?
Yeah.
So that's not me. That's a singer named Jean Rene Belekta. He's from the Congo, and Ndombe. I'm not enunciating it quite correctly, but that is the word for brown people or black people, as he was saying. And I've forgotten a lot of what he told me, but I think the loose translation is something about freedom, black people and freedom. And I thought it fit along with what I was talking about with, traditionally, what's the word? I'm sorry, my words escape me. Oppressed groups, and trying to break free and create a place where all of us have space to exist.
Gotcha. Wow. Well, it blends very well with the song and almost sets forth the tone for the music and the words that you have after that. I have to say, I love the line. Well, there's tons of lines that I love, but the one that stands out to me is Utopia, the land of the free in spite of the slave. And, that speaks so much to the, just the overall colonization and subjugation of other people that is within the history of the United States. Mm-hmm. And it's just...
I was really nervous at first whether I was going to put that in the song or not. And at first it didn't have that in there, even though that was the first version of it. that I wrote down on a page. At first, it was going to be just something else that didn't mean anything, because I had been actually, classic me, arguing with somebody on Facebook, and they claimed that it was extremely disrespectful. But in the end, I decided that I would rather face any criticism that came, or get in trouble if that was to come, and then be untruthful to myself and not put what was on my heart on that page. And I think the thing that's important to me about that line is that it's not just speaking about slavery of black people in the past. Like, it still goes on now, like with the recent prison strikes. You know, prisoners are, that's modern slave labor. The reason the United States we are able to persist as a consumer nation as we are now is because we directly benefit off the struggling of other people and the suffering of other people oceans away, you know, sometimes just, you know, a few miles south of the border. And we can, as citizens, address that if we move together. But that's the only way it would happen, is if we move together. And, you know, part of me feels kind of bad, because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, nah, I'm not going to get on any soapbox or anything. I'm just going to be, you know, fun person to listen to, or fun artist or whatever. But I can't avoid it, you know, because I felt like I wanted to do something that mattered. My whole career, everything I want to do with music, I want to do a project that I felt like, at least in my heart, mattered, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Wow. It takes all these wonderful tones so did you start off with words first, or did you have something on the keys, or were you?
For this one, and for this album in general, is unique because usually I'm someone who sound evokes emotion, evokes place and time. Like, I can hear a chord, or I can hear a tone on a keyboard or a guitar, and to me, like, that encapsulates a moment and how I felt. But for this one, it was the words. I just sat in my basement alone and it's just the words, you know, I was just the words like look away. It wasn't exactly Negro, but you know what I mean. Like, like, to me, that just stuck out in my head, and I just branched out from there. And it just came out more like a poem. I'm just like, all right, I don't care what it sounds like. I'm just going to put notes behind this. Yeah. Because it was just for a live performance at first. I didn't know how it was going to go. And I decided I wanted minimal instrumentation because it wasn't the sonorities that mattered as much as the words in that moment. But then I actually found that with a traditional, you know, trying to take from that roots feeling of music from Africa, from that you might have heard when we were being brought over with the call and response initiative. Because when I do it live, I know I sing back to the audience, I have it sing back to me, that you had from the slave ships and from, you know, the African American community when we were brought over. To me, that was very powerful musically as well, to marry with the words. And then obviously when you get to the hopeful section, you know, you bring in more harmony and, you know, more emotion. It's less static, but yeah. That is,
everything about this has so much about oppression and other modern day slaves, as you said, even women in general, or listen, brother, please understand, if you must hide your feelings if you can. They will chase you across the land should they see you kiss that man. All of this can be so dark, but I also think about the fact that this is your voice trying to express your resonance with other people that are facing this as well. And that that at the end where you have the hopeful part, you know, love that's equal for all people, deeper than the sea. It's like you're finally, I feel like you're kind of wrapping your arms around everyone and kind of trying to bring them all close and try to find that center where people are whole and at peace. There's so much in just the kind of in the soul, in like the gospel, in even like a spiritual sense of your tone. And have you always been into that style of music, or
like gospel music?
Yeah, I mean, like, how did that is that something that, like, is that your preferred way to play, or is that just,
well, I mean,
I guess I'm just wondering what your
right.
roots are in terms of how you got into that.
Since I was young, my dad used to sub as a musician in Chicago for a church up there, Lilydale Baptist Church. So I came, and my mother, her father was a pastor in Florida, and I came up around black gospel church music, and I heard it all the time. So kind of by osmosis, it just kind of was a part of me. I also, you know, I love a lot of classic soul artists, and that sound is also derived directly from the church.
Yeah.
So sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it. But when I try to go to the place, when anyone tries to go to a place that has the deepest meaning to them personally, they're going to revert to things that are at their core of what they are and what they came up on. So that's probably why it came up out of me.
Yeah.
In that instance.
Is there any other lines that kind of stand out to you in terms of that you say to yourself, that is the line that you get brought back to it each time, that's the part that really digs deep into your soul, that brings out?
The thing to me is actually kind of just like two phrases. I guess you could call it two phrases, but they're pretty long. Like the ad-lib thing that I go into when I do the transition,
mm-hmm.
or I speak about in a world where peace is more than a myth of the afterlife and all that. Actually, when I was trying to record the song, it was just time that needed to be filled. And I didn't know what I was going to say there originally, because in the live performance version, that wasn't in it yet.
Oh, so was this originally that I guess not the bridge, maybe you would call it? I don't know.
Kind of, I guess. But it kind of functions that way. But yeah, I was there at the studio. I'm like, I have to fill this with something. So I told James, just wait a second. And thankfully he did. He waited a lot of seconds over the course of recording the album. But I just took out my book and I scribbled down some stuff. I'm like, okay, this could work here. This could go here. And it was good because for me, typically, I'm someone who the words are really tough for me to come up with. So I usually take forever on those. But it forced me to get right to what I meant, and I didn't have time to screen myself.
Wow.
And I really liked it in that moment, which I'm thankful for because I didn't spend a lot of time reviewing it. But it kind of just touched quickly on the things that were important to me. Like as far as global conflict and wars, a lot of that stuff is not only avoidable, it's unnecessary, and it's people being manipulated, you know, by third parties. And also the idea that our value is directly related to our ability to be quote unquote productive, you know, in conventional terms, like as far as monetary means, or basically as far as what you can, what monetary value you can add to a community, to an employer. That's not how people's value works. Everyone has a right to exist, to have a place to sleep, and that's regardless of whether or not you get up and you're like the head of Amazon, or you're the head of an imaginary company in your mind and you sell dragons. You know, like that. We have enough, and that's the way it should be. But you know, okay, that's I guess how I feel about that. So
wow. Oh, I feel you're such a font of words for somebody who said that they have trouble coming up with words. everything you have said is just amazing to me, and just I just, you know, I mean, I don't know how to dig into this. I mean, there's just so much.
I'd say that my hope with people, with my music or anything in general, but is maybe, and like I love in-depth analysis because honestly I envy people who are mechanical thinkers like that and are able to get into everything and what it means. But I just like to just lay back and let things hit you in waves, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just the overall vibe might take you somewhere different than if you had tried to understand everything piece by piece at once, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you telling me about the In a Land Where Peace is More than a Myth of the Afterlife. That was something that you wrote in a moment where you didn't get a chance to filter yourself, where you didn't have a chance to rethink how honest you would be about how you feel. And I mean, it comes out very, very amazing. Yeah, in a world where compassion knows no bounds by land or sea. Just love it. It's great. And so you recorded this. So where did you record this?
So the band, all that stuff was recorded in Chicago by Alexander Harris II, the father of the guitarist in my band, Elijah Harris, in his studio. And then all the vocals were recorded at James's house in his basement, at his home studio.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, it's a great sounding album. So if anybody has the opportunity, please check it out. It's on Bandcamp. It's on Spotify, but if you want to support and buy the album, you just released it on Bandcamp too, I think.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. See, that's how terrible I am with, with technology. I had thought I'd released it the same day as everything else, and I realized it was still private. So yesterday I was like, I better change this. So now it's public. And the thing about Bandcamp is kind of cool is I put the lyrics on there for everything. So if you want to see my attempt at trying to write good words, you can read what I wrote.
Yeah, that was not actually. That's where I think I was able to snag them, or did I ask you for them? I can't remember.
I think you might have snagged them because I don't remember sending them. But if I did, that's cool. I don't remember doing that. So definitely check that out. I'll put the link on the liner notes of the podcast. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about this song, or? I think I've finally gotten out of my system.
Champaign is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening, located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. What do you love about the Champaign-Urbana music scene?
Oh, I mean, well, I think the thing I love about it is the history I have with it. Just getting in there, basically starting to get involved when I started my college career. So I felt like, even though I'm a townie, I felt late, but it was really cool just seeing how many creative people are in that area, which is really concentrated for such a, like, it's not that big of a town.
Right.
And even with the music school, like, there were a lot of local people when I was coming up, like Emily came from there. Fiona up out there too. And then there are like so many groups and just people all creating at the same time. It's a special area to be in, and it was a special community to be a part of. So, and also it being near a university, where people are always pushing themselves, like they're doing things that they normally creatively that would feel a little bit out of their wheelhouse. And it's really cool to be around people who are all learning and are interested in learning at the same time.
Wow.
It creates a really cool environment, and it grows you as a person too, and as a artist, I feel.
Wow. So when did you start with Church Booty? Was that
Church Booty? Oh,
yeah, which is now Fay Ray.
Yeah. So Church Booty originally started. Mark Hartsuch, a saxophone player who's out in LA now, he started the group because he got offered to do a house show.
What?
Yeah, it was just we played house shows. That was how that band started. So at the time, I was just like, this dorky freshman who was just starting at the jazz school, and he asked me to sing. I was like, all right, that's cool. I'm gonna sing a house party. It's gonna be like all the teenage coming of age movies I've ever seen. It's gonna be pretty cool. And it was not quite that at all, but it was still really fun. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And we were like, yeah, this is kind of fun. So we kept doing it for a while.
Yeah. Were you all in college at the time, or?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
Yep. We were all either freshmen or sophomores. I think Tim Miles, who was there, I think he was the only one older. I think he was like a senior or something, or junior.
Wow. And now the remainder of Church Booty, Fay Ray, is up in Chicago right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. All the guys are up there, and Merle's up there too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so how did you get to work with, how do I say this right? How did you begin work? That's it. How did you begin working with Fiona Kimble?
Oh, Fiona. Well, it's because the world of music and people you work with, and especially in town, is so small. So I remember, like, when I first saw, like, one of her early shows at on campus, or at some house, somebody's living room, and I was sitting next to Marielle. She sings for Fay Ray now. She was also in Church Booty with me at that time.
Cool.
And I was like, who is this lady? She's pretty good. And she's like, oh, it's Fiona. I was like, wow, okay. Well, maybe I'll hear her again sometime. And, over time, we kept bumping into each other. She's like, oh, would you mind singing back up for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. And just
awesome. Show
up and just sing a third below you or whatever, and started doing that for a while. It's been fun. Cool.
And you're also currently the part of the house band at Blackbird.
Yeah, that's a cool gig. That's really new for me. It's really a nice new challenge to sing covers. I haven't done that in a long time, and then to do it every week. And it helps me work on engaging an audience outside of my own setting. And I feel like it'll just help make me more dynamic, hopefully, and more of a leader on stage, and more interesting for people to watch.
If you had any complaints about the Champaign-Urbana music scene, what do you dislike about the Champaign-Urbana music scene?
Well, I think it's hard for me when I think about putting things in terms of, like, the term complain, because it makes it sound like, you're pessimistic about your past place. I'm nothing but thankful for all the opportunities and everything I've had there. A critique I would say I've had, I don't know, it seems to me like the thing that was really cool about it, to me, my favorite part about it, was when I felt like it was really embracing and helping foster local groups and acts and talent. You know, giving them a place to work out their kinks and to grow something there. Because with it being close to the school and a lot of people trying to form bands, and with it being the area that is, a lot of talented people come out of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I felt like I feel like in the past it has been perhaps a bit more hospitable to people and groups, people trying to form groups, and people trying to go out and play who are local. Say, hey, give us a shot opening for so and so. You bring somebody in and be like, yeah. And part of that is due to the times. Like, I totally get it. People want to come see DJs. That's what'll pack a house. And I get that. Like, I get that's a business model, and I don't fault people for that. But still, I feel like push the local people, help link up with that community, because I think that can foster something that's really special and unique. Because really across the country, talking about live music acts, it's a struggle to keep alive. My dad, for a sabbatical, was out in the California area, and he was talking about, now he's more in the classical vein, but he was talking about venues and organizations and ensembles having to close or revamp or reevaluate how they are able to present themselves. And it's because a lot of times, like, having access to different types of technology and stuff, people are oftentimes say, well, maybe I'll sit and listen to my favorite band on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But it's still, going and seeing something, being there, is a unique experience. And I think that if you have a culture of that in your town, in your city, it gives you something unique that a lot of other places don't necessarily have right now.
Right.
And trust me, it's only a matter of time before the powers that be in the corporate areas recognize that that's something that's not being taken care of, and they find a way to incentivize it and monetize it so that people are like, oh, well, I have to be here and you're paying hand over fist, when we could get ahead of the game there, really boost the town's, visibility, economy, all that stuff. But, I'm not, trying to tell people what to do.
Well, it's certainly hard when the official venues seem to be drying up around here.
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah.
Sorry to bring it down, but yeah, there's so many places that used to be like the mainstay, and I think of places like Mike and Molly's. That was always. I remember when you could actually just go downtown and just hop from bar to bar. Yeah. And or from venue to venue. It didn't even have to be a bar, but you could just hop around and see a bunch of different musical acts. And I don't feel like it's kind of reserved for, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but you don't get a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday kind of thing. Unless you wanted to do a DIY kind of setup.
Right.
Yeah. So you studied music, but what particular area? Performance, composition?
Oh, I was just a jazz
focus?
Performance major.
Okay.
Because they didn't necessarily have explicitly a jazz vocal program at the time. Okay. And really it helped me with my overall musicianship, and gave me the ability to communicate with other players and then write out my music so that they could play it. Because I always heard everything, I just didn't know how to communicate it. So I was just super thankful for that, because it gave me the chance to do what I do now, and it's pretty cool.
And so, dare I ask what instruments besides voice that you play?
So I've recently been working on teaching myself guitar, and I've been playing with that some. I've started performing with that some. I know arranger's piano, which means I write with it, and I play some. I've played publicly a few times, but it's not like I'm Fred Hammond or Herbie Hancock. That's not going to happen. And I started with trumpet. I played trumpet for 6 years. I don't play anymore. It's just too much. It's too much maintenance, man. Every day you got to be playing that thing, because you take 2 days off, and it's like you're a stranger to it.
Oh. Like in terms of strength, or just like muscle memory kind of thing, or what?
Well, in terms of like it, because you use your embouchure, your lips. Yeah. They have to be conditioned in order to really have good finesse and range and power and playability on that instrument. And when you take time off, you take a day off, and like the other musicians around you are going to notice. Take 2 days to 3 days to a week off, and the people are going to notice.
Wow.
You know, it's just like, but all the brass players I know, all the good ones, every day they're grinding, every day they play. Because
Wow.
you have to, that's what it takes. And frankly, I don't have time like that, you know?
Right. Wow. I never played a brass instrument, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's an adventure. It's nice, but a lot of people like it.
Wow. Huh.
I
So
play a little bit of bass guitar. I mean, but it's not that much. Like, I just know how it works, so I play it some.
I guess we can kind of circle back to the arrangement for The Promised Land. Do you, as you said, you play at the level of like arrangement piano.
Yeah.
So, did you just say, here are the chords and go ahead and embellish on your own or improvise on your own to create these songs? Or did you say, this is where this, in terms of the arrangement for the piece, did you have it written out or did you?
Oh, so like the unison line at the top. Yeah, I wrote that out. But then typically the guys I work with are also from the jazz school. So I don't micromanage per se, but like the little guitar lick at the end of Promised Land, that was something that I put in. But like if you hear somebody adding in, a spur of the moment chord substitution, or they add in something that sounds like an improvised lick, it's because it is an improvised lick. I'll write the progressions, I'll write the bass lines and the thematic elements, and then from there on, I let the players play.
Yeah.
That's generally the form I use.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it sounds so well put together, I mean, and do you spend a lot of time with everyone rehearsing, or I'm just curious about that, that part of the process before you recorded, or did you use the process of recording to actually develop the sound?
Well, here's the thing: is like studio time is like money.
Yeah.
I don't have a company behind me or anything, so like I want stuff to like everybody to show up, you play, and you leave. And I'll spend forever in post trying to make it whatever it's going to be.
Gotcha.
So we played almost a year's worth of shows on those songs. I made a few edits, and the week before, I said, okay, let's do a run through what this is actually going to look like with those few edits that I threw into what they've been playing for a year already. And then we show up and we play for 2 days in the studio, and then they're done. And then I add my vocals in, and I take forever on those, changing my mind all the time. And then I spend a long time, annoying James, changing things all the time. The work we did in post on this record was ridiculous. It was a lot.
But James is a patient person.
Yeah,
and
James is a demigod of patience.
He's a good person.
Oh, yeah.
Good person. Yeah. Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. What's your favorite non-musical thing?
My favorite non-musical thing. There are definitely things I'm interested in, but I don't love them. So I'll just say my favorite non-musical thing, I think, is just to, like, before this, I was in Meadowbrook Park just walking around, just looking at trees. And like looking at animals as they pass by, and looking at the sky, and just existing. I think I like that the most. It's simple,
Yeah.
Because I think the most complex beauty is in the simplest things because they exist and they're true and they remain true. You know, there's a lot. There's not much you can break down to that level that remains consistent. You know.
Well, we're just atoms, you know.
True.
Floating around. Well, like any great host, I managed to not thank Melvin Knight before he left. And I guess, I don't know, I missed it. So I just wanted to take this opportunity right now to thank Melvin Knight for coming out to the country and telling me about their song, Promised Land, and giving me a lot to think about. So thank you so much, Melvin Knight. I appreciate your interview, and I appreciate you and your music and the music that you put together.
Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Melvin Knight reminding you great music is out there, so go find it where you live.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good. Hi. Do you like inane babble? Do you like wasting lots of time? Well, Damien Duffy After Dark podcast might just be right up your alley. Brought to you by Blue Box Studio.
You did 5, 4, 3, 1, 2. That's confusing. Wait, yeah, there we go. Okay, so you want me to bunt. Got it.
Bunt.
Because it's hand gestures that no one can see.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, let's get ready. We're going to do the commercial. I'm going to do it right now. You ready? Here we go. Do you hate yourself? Do you wish you felt like you weren't a piece of shit? Listen to Damien Duffy After Dark and learn that there are people dumber than you. Damien Duffy After Dark. After Dark.
After Dark.
Like an adrenaline shot for your self-esteem.
South Beaker on the